Hi, Denise.
Hello. How are
Hi, how
you?
are you?
I'm good. We're going to get started. So, I'm just going to do a little introduction. So, hello and welcome to Redefining the Significance of You Time for You, by you, because of you. For those who don't know, my name is Denise Drinkwalter, and I'm an empowerment life coach supporting women around the world to lean into and realize the importance of you. The goal of this channel is to provide you, the viewer, with some takeaways that will help you shift, change, reevaluate, and or become more aware of what is possible for you. We have a variety of incredible guests who will be sharing their life experiences that have helped them become the incredible human beings that they are today. Every one of us, sometime in our lives, we've tried that infamous free time and frequently feel guilty, embarrassed, and or wrong for taking time out for ourselves. We are here to help change that and support you to see what is possible for you when you take the time for you, by you, because of you. It is an absolute honor and privilege to introduce Priya. And how do you pronounce your last name? I want to make sure I do it right.
Yeah, it's my husband's last name, actually. So it's Tronsgard.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Priya
I hope I'm doing it
Tronsgard.
justice. So that's at this
Love it.
point.
So, a little bit about Priya. She has a background in psychology and has been working with kids in educational settings for over 22 years. Priya has two children who are neurodivergent, and her work has impacted over 1,200 families, and that count is growing steadily as she continues to support families with her work. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's
Thank you,
great to have
Denise.
you.
Oh, that's wonderful. I love what you're doing and what your channel is all about.
Perfect. Let's dig in and find out, because I'm sure there are people in the audience who are watching the recording or here jumping in live. What do you mean by neurodivergent? What is neurodiversity? Share that with us to start.
Denise, that's such a common question, and thank you so much for asking. So, neurodivergent, simply put, means anyone who's wired to think differently, and that's it. And it's as simple as that. It's not um, anything too deep in terms of the way that you would explain it. But if you look at a problem and you solve it in a different way, then that's neurodivergent. And by most accounts, some people are 25% of the population of the earth is neurodivergent. So it is quite normal to have this diversity in any living being, in any living creature, to have that diversity. So neurodivergence is something that is normal, but at the same time different, and it's not bad, it's just different.
So, what do we do with that? So, we might decide or discover we think differently. I'm sure the
Mhm.
people in the audience are going, "Oh, yeah, people always tell me I don't think like you."
Yeah.
What do people do with that? Because I know the people that I support, the women that I support, get inside our heads, right? We start thinking, well, I'm not the same as everybody. And that's why I'm not making it. I'm not the
Mm.
same. I don't think the same. I don't do the things the same way. There's got to be something wrong with me. You said there's nothing wrong. How do we start a process by where we look at this and say, how do I use it to my advantage? And I know that's a lot of stuff that you talk about. So let's dig in
Yes, it
there.
is. Exactly. So, I'm joining you from Vancouver, and that's in Canada. So, I can tell you a little bit about how we do it here, but it's the same for everyone. I mean, really, what you want to do is, if you think that you are approaching issues differently and that you have some things that are different from everyone else, you can look it up online. But we would like to go to the doctor, but not everyone has access to that. But if you do have access to that, that's a great place to start. And then it's almost like you get this battery, this assessment of, so you're looking at it from a medical model. The medical model is something that's not meant to help you succeed. It's just pointing out the differences, right? So
Okay.
that's where people get stuck. And they're like, oh, it says that I've got ADHD. That's a bad thing. Well, it's only a bad thing if you think of it that way. So exactly what you were saying, you've got to, now what do you do with that? So now you've found out, okay, um, I have a short attention span. And then you start to see, how do I use that to my advantage? What
Mm.
is there in my diagnosis that can help myself and others? So, and then also it may help you break some patterns. Like people who have been diagnosed with, for example, ADHD, they tend to ruminate. So they do get inside their own head and they do replay those negative things, anything that causes them to have a spike of a neurotransmitter, for example. That's exciting. We don't realize it, but then we start ruminating in our brain, and that's not healthy. So we can stop patterns that are not serving us, and we can move back and look at the big picture. So we work with what we were given in this world today. There were many times and periods throughout history where it would be an advantage, complete advantage, without even knowing a diagnosis. Society was set up differently. So in this day and age, we have so many ways to radically reframe, which is also the name of a book I recently wrote. We can radically reframe the diagnosis and make our life reach its true potential.
I love that. So powerful. You're giving people their power back in a way that helps them see the benefits of what they've been quote unquote diagnosed with. A diagnosis doesn't mean you have to stay there. A diagnosis, I used to talk with the kids that I would teach, and I would say, they'd say, oh, well, I have ADHD, right? Like, so this is the reason why I do this. And I said, well, that gives us an understanding. It doesn't give anybody an excuse other than to create like you say, a change in pattern behavior. We have
Right.
that power, right?
Right. If it's serving you, then that's great. But for most people, it's not. So there's the opportunity. That's where it lies. I mean, you can find out about creativity and different types of thinking. And a lot of these kids who have been, blessed with that diagnosis also really care about the environment, and they're activists and they're empathetic. They do care so deeply. So it's good to be aware of that. So they care so deeply, they care about social causes, and we need kids who feel empowered right now. And that is the power that's going to change the world. So we really want to lean into that instead of saying, okay, well, you're moving your body and you're making noise and that's disruptive. We can now find a way to make them our helper, get them more involved, get them to, lead an outdoor session where they're jumping. Like, we have to find a way to incorporate them. And if it can't be incorporated, we need to find the supports that they need. So that means, and in a way, if you think about these neurodivergent people, they can push us towards better systems and better programs. So, in the educational model, it is advantageous for all systems to have fewer people working in one room, whereas neurodivergent kids are now, sometimes we have no choice as educators, parents, and caregivers to really find and advocate on the behalf of our kids. And that is helping the whole education system.
Right, right. Do you do a lot of work then specifically with education systems? Or you mentioned about all the work you do with families. I can just imagine you probably don't have time to sleep because this is such a powerful opportunity.
I've had an interesting, yeah, I've had an interesting go. I pivoted
Yeah,
during COVID, and it brought me to a lot of different opportunities. And I think where I want to spend 80% of my time is to work with families one on one. That's where I get the biggest reward. And also, and I connect them with tutors. And I don't know how to put that in some kind of algorithm. It's just me. It's me who matches them up to the families
Oh,
and
nice.
chooses. Yeah, I choose them. And then the other thing is I do workshops with caregivers and educators, and yeah, so it's been really great. I mean, I think with the book Radically Reframe, Three Guiding Principles to a Happier Neurodivergent Family, that's really helped me, get in and talk to teachers as well. So I'd say, presentations are something that, and I use my personal story in the presentations as well. So when I was a highly barriered child. My mom passed away when I was 12, and my dad, who was not actually my primary caregiver at the time, ended up raising me and my brother. And it was very challenging, and it was I don't know if you say ninth grade or grade 9. So it
Yeah.
was around that time. I had gotten, and back then we used grades. So like four
Right.
D's and 2 E's. And I just didn't know what to do with my life. And it was, no trigger warning here, but it was a dark period.
Yeah.
But then I got connected to that one person in the community.
Mm.
Her name's Lily Dong, and she's still working today. And she came in to this room, and it was like an after-school club that somehow I was able to get to. And she's like, "What are you going to do after high school?" I'm like, "High school? I don't even know if I can make it after high school." And you sure you will. I promise you, you will. So what are you going to do after high school? I'm like, "I don't know." She's like, "Well, I want a list by next week when I see you." So I saw her again the week after, and I didn't think she was serious, and she's like, "Where is that list?" So yes, I made the list, and I everything on that list has come true. I graduated, with scholarship levels, and um, then I traveled. I got my degree, and in psychology, and I lived in Japan and worked for the Tokyo Board of Education. And I
Wow.
all the little, as a teenager, and I'd written like, I want to go to Paris and buy a Louis Vuitton, and all these things. They did happen. They did come true. And she's that one person that encouraged me just to just go for it, and she believed in me. She really thought I could do it. So,
Amazing.
all these kids need is just that one person, and it doesn't have to be every day, but it's that
Yeah.
one person who believes in them, gets them to just reframe what they know about themselves, get them to look, stand back, look at the big picture, and, really work on that growth mindset, right? So,
Amazing.
yeah, get them to work on hard things, and I love what I do.
I can tell it's coming out of your pores. You could just tell the energy on the screen is like she loves everything
Thank
she's
you.
involved in. Yeah, so
I'm
powerful.
blessed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You mentioned it takes one person. When I hear your story, it's like one moment in time, and she followed up with it. She didn't just do it and leave you hanging. It
Yeah.
was, "No, I care about this. I asked you to do something.
Yeah.
Show me the deal." And she knew,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
it can take a short conversation to help somebody just open a new way of thinking. And it might not, like you say, you don't have to do it for years at a time. It can be one moment, right?
That's right. And it's interesting. So she got me to write that list, and then she threw me into leadership programs, right? And I think a lot of our kids, they're used to, and even us, like we're used to not stepping into our power.
Yeah.
And then, so really just figuring that out. And it worked out fantastic.
It's
Yeah.
so, and I'm sure when you wrote that list, you wrote it like you said, I wanted this and I wanted that and I wanted this and I wanted that. Of course, your growth and expansion over time. But if you really did it from your heart center, it was attached to your reality. You didn't have to create, oh, I have to make a list for her. No, you did it from yourself, right? Which
That's
was
right. Yeah, I
huge.
really got into it. Like, it
Amazing.
wasn't just like a task.
Yeah.
It was like,
Yeah.
what if this list could come true?
Yeah.
Like, let
And
me dream. Yeah.
and you shared, we still do that as adults. We get caught in our rut. And that's why we're talking what we're talking today. Do something for you, by you, because of you. And it's because of people like Priya and myself, we believe because we see it happen every day when
I
people
see it
just
happen
say,
every
right?
day. I see it
Yes.
happen every day. Like, people might think I'm crazy because I'm so like, yes, you've got autism. That's awesome. I'm so glad you know. Let's lean into your power. And why do you think this is a good thing?
Yeah.
Because I see kids who were bullied, who were homeschooled, go back to regular school and do well and never come back after 6 months. I see kids who can't do math, and 2 years later they graduated high school and they're for math, and like, in
Yeah.
another system they would be seen as broken. They
Yeah.
would be seen as a challenge, right? And so I see this all the time. I
Yeah.
When I run into people that I used to work with, there's a mom I ran into at the pharmacy, and she just starts crying. What happened? She's like, you changed our lives. You got
Mm,
us to believe in the process of the diagnosis, and we pursued it, and because of that my child's life is so much better. We are thriving. And so when things like that are happening around you, you're like, okay, I've got something here. It's going to
yeah.
help. And it can help anybody. You don't have to have a diagnosis.
Right. Exactly. I think it's the core principles of that inner belief and knowing that anything is possible. And we are so restricted because of what we've heard from the outside about the limitations. And we start to believe that. So you give that light of ignition, right? You're that little, you've got the match and you start it, and then it just goes and there is no end, right?
I just love it. I don't know, like, in the future, I hope to have the right type of people join my team and get them, and they love doing the work that they do, but it is not easy. And a lot of them are, they just love it. Like, they're education assistants or SSWs, or and they help. But in the system they currently work in, they can't do that one-on-one,
Yeah.
and they want to so desperately to do that one-on-one. And
Mm-hmm.
it's so interesting. Like, you take the same caring individual and you overload them with 30 kids or 11 kids per hour,
Mm-hmm.
and you take them out of that setting and you get them to do what they really wanted to do, and everybody benefits. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I wish that everyone could experience that, one-on-one coaching, or that one-on-one that person who really believes in you, that is going to take you so much further than anything you could do for yourself. Yet I have my own mentor. I've got my own, I've got my own coaches. Like,
Yep.
this is how I support myself.
Yep.
And that support, that big picture thinking, even if I'm having a life experience that's not working out for me, because that's normal, I still have the structural support in place to make sure I don't fall too hard.
Right. Right. Because when you hit those bumps in the road, when you hit those challenges, if you don't have somebody there to support with those next steps to know that you can make it, then you can, like you say, fall right back down. And it is a learning process, and that's one of the things that I share and you share, I know too, is that life is all about learning. There is no finish line to learning. We learn every single day, doesn't matter how young or old we are, right?
Exactly. And
Yeah.
I feel like that's the secret sauce. That's what keeps us young. That's what keeps us, and when I say young, I mean like enjoying life in a
Yeah.
healthy way. Like, our body is healthy. Maybe it's not all the time, but if we've got that in our mind, something to look forward to, something that we learned, that keeps us enjoying life. And that's what it's all about.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Exactly. Exactly. How is the best way for people to find you, to reach out, to maybe have more conversation, to find out how to work with you, how all of this works? I
Yeah,
have, yeah, go
yes.
ahead. Yeah,
It's anything with Edify Learning Spaces. So that's EDIFY Learning, LEARNING Spaces. And you can find me on all the socials, and you can go on Google and search up Edify Learning Spaces, and our website will show up. And that has access to the book, Radically Reframe. Yeah, I do more talks. I do some talks on TikTok. So that's kind of fun. And I am on Instagram and everything else. So stay in
perfect.
touch, everybody.
We will definitely add all this information at the bottom in the show notes. You and I could go on forever and ever. As a former educator for 31 years in the system, and I was responsible for a number of years supporting emotional behavior disorders. And
Yeah,
oh, they taught me so much.
I know, right?
Oh, what an incredible group of children. I love them all
I like
dearly.
how
Oh,
you came full circle because it's a
right?
lot to throw you in, right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, pretty amazing. So thank you so much for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure. And again, we'll put in the show notes all the information so you can reach out to Priya. And I want to share one more thing and let everybody know we talked about this already, but today is a new day for beginnings. Why not, right? Time for ourselves. Every single day we get to start anew. Be the change that we want to be. If you haven't been part of our amazing newsletter, please make sure you subscribe. The link again will be in the show notes. And if you haven't heard, we're officially opening up the doors for how to release regrets in your relationships. It's a 4-day event filled with strategies to help you navigate through your emotions and use regret to your advantage, and don't get stuck in that negative because it's so easy to do. So we're going to give lots of techniques to help you through that. So I'm officially inviting everybody to join us and take part in that event. Again, the show notes will have all of Priya's information and all the details for that. Send me a DM or reach out to me on social media. Do the same, connect with both of us. Have a wonderful day, and make sure you go and do something for yourself, by yourself, because of yourself today. Goodbye. Thanks, Priya.
Thank you so much. What a pleasure.